Diary of a Wimpy Kid is one of the best-selling book series of all time, with more than 290 million book sales globally across its 18 separate installments. It gave way to toys, merchandise, and even a film series that similarly was very successful. Part of this was due to the perfect casting. Steve Zahn as Greg's dad, Rachel Harris as his mother, Zachary Gordon as Greg Heffley, and Devin Bostic as his older brother Roderick. Roderick is a delinquent teen who fantasizes about being a rock star. As a member of his iconic band Loaded Diaper, Devin Bostic perfectly fit this role, embodying the quintessential 2000s rock fan with emo hair, eyeliner, and corny t-shirts parodying popular brands to really stick it to the man.
We need to crank it up full diaper!
And his performance was hilarious.
Do you have anything you want to say to women for having owned this offensive magazine?
I'm sorry, women.
Considering the modest budget of $15 million, a return of $76 million was very pleasing for the studio, so they greenlit 2 more. But by the time of the third film in 2012, the cast had already aged considerably. Zach Gordon was 14 years old, while Devin Bostic was 21. Greg Heffley is perpetually 12 and in middle school in the books, meaning they needed to give the cast surgery and hormones to prevent them from further aging. The results were horrific, as the entire child cast died and was cast into the fires of hell. The series died with them. Jeff Kinney, I'm joking. I'm trolling. Please don't sue me. I'm a good guy. After a government cover-up, the studio was looking to film a reboot, seeing as the series still had widespread popularity and name recognition. In 2017, they announced the movie for the 9th book in the series, The Long Haul, starring an all-new cast. The parents were replaced with Tom Everett Scott to play Frank Heffley, while Susan will be played by Alicia Silverstone. When it came to Greg, they chose Jason Drucker, and for Roderick, they would choose Charlie Wright. Replacing the cast in the series is hard, especially given how memorable the original performances were. The studio increased the budget from $15 million to $22 million. If it worked, it could mean a few more successful movies before the child actors were thrown into the Sarlacc pit. It didn't work. During test screenings, audiences were perplexed by the recast. We got a lot of laughs, says Jeff Kinney, the author of the books and an executive producer on the film. Then the lights came on and people started asking, why didn't they use the old cast? They were genuinely confused about why we would replace such a good cast. It took us a little off guard. The movie only made $7 million upon opening, before eventually grossing $40 million worldwide. Sure, it made back its production budget, albeit to much less of a degree than the first film 7 years prior with the old cast. And while viewers loved the first movie, The Long Haul fared much worse. It's atrocious, a dumbed-down sequel that tosses out the series' charms for cheap gags. It's got DTV written all over it, which does not do the book justice. Shame on you, Warner Brothers, for putting out this garbage. This film should never have been made. It was met with an abysmal 18% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and 4.3 out of 10 on IMDb. While the studio was criticized for the entire recast, the one that stood out the most was Charlie Wright as Roderick. Many pointed out the physical differences between the two, with them casting someone who was part Asian to play the older brother in a white family. Others cited his performance as being very bland in comparison to Devin Bostic.
If I go, will he give me money to fix my van?
Now I get my van fixed, right?
Maybe mom and dad will even give me the money to get my van fixed.
There's a video game drummer competition, just like Rock Band, and I think the prize is about $1,000.
$1,000? I'd be able to buy 10 vans with that.
Will someone please pay for my van repairs?
Critics didn't like him, and neither did the fans. Donald Trump had just been inaugurated as president, leading many critics to post and protest to Twitter saying #NotMyPresident. This would then birth a meme satirizing it in the form of Not My Roderick. But it went deeper than that. Tweet after tweet was published criticizing the new actor. Fans made art of Devin as the character just to spite the new actor. They created memes with the hashtag, comparing his appearance to Edna from The Incredibles, Leafy is Here, anime characters, Randall from Monsters Inc., and declared they would wear thick black eyeliner and write Not My Roderick on their hands in protest. They started change.org petitions declaring, "This is unacceptable. Charlie Wright is not Roderick. Devin Bostic is. We need you guys to sign this so that we can get rid of Charlie Wright." One site raised over 10,000 signatures alone, while seeking 1/10 of the engagement. On Instagram, there were more than 270,000 instances of fans using the hashtag. Entire accounts were named after the movement. When the trailer was initially released, Devin Bostic himself had reacted to it on YouTube to give his thoughts. It was then turned into thousands of meme edits.
Roderick. I got us.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
He said he was excited and even wished Charlie Wright well.
That was awesome. I can't wait to see this. But I just wanted to say to Charlie Wright, the new Roderick, it's time that I gracefully, well, this is already not graceful, so I gracefully pass on this torch to you as Roderick. It's time to let go and know that there's a new man in town, and someone's got to rock and roll, and it's you. It's you, man. Anyway, I wish you all the best, and keep punishing Greg. And yeah, I don't have like an actual torch to give you, or like if I had a drumstick, I'd give you one of those. But I've destroyed them all, just rocking so hard.
Meanwhile, the audience speculated on his true feelings. I think a little piece of him died when he saw new Roderick. The light went out in his eyes.
Okay.
24 Frames of Nick posted a video being very critical of the new movie, with Not My Roderick being in the thumbnail.
None of the characters are like their book counterparts. It's just not Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Roderick in the originals was a showstopper. He was dumb, but it wasn't forced. It made you smile. The way he would move around each scene was just so classy, but also so clunky. Here, his dumbness is beyond forced, to the point where you can't tell if he's a parody of himself.
Cursive?
Cursive?
The criticism and hate was intense and unforgiving. The assumed sequel with a new cast was canned as the actors went their separate ways. All subsequent roles with Charlie Wright were significantly low profile compared to the Wimpy Kid movie, and considering that his biggest role was also his most hated, it's not surprising studios quietly stopped giving him work. Online, he was immortalized as the Roderick everyone hated, until eventually, everyone just forgot about him.
Some of those Civil War reenactment photos I was telling you about.
Oh my God.
Roderick, can you explain what you're doing in this photo?
That's not me.
That's not you?
Nope.
In late 2021, Charlie Wright opened a YouTube channel. He began posting videos about his life in the fashion industry before finally working up the courage to speak on his experience.
A role that basically turned me into a living meme, something I'll probably have to live with for the rest of my life.
Charlie discusses how he applied to the role for Roderick on a whim, half-assing his performance during casting. To his surprise, they called him back for another script reading. 2 months later, he was in Atlanta filming the movie. Now, something unorthodox he points out about the film was the cast being announced once it was already done. This turned out to be a fatal mistake for the studio. The movie was already filmed and edited, and $20 million had been spent to make it. It was coming out one way or the other. Charlie speculates on how much of the hate was because he was replacing Devin, or if people just genuinely hated him. Whatever the case, the movie bombed.
Eventually, the movie came out, and, it didn't do what the studio wanted it to do, and so the other 2 films that were planned to go ahead after this one were canceled. Rest in peace. That would have been a nice bag.
As the hate and memes grew, Charlie initially found them funny, but as people made fun of him for being Asian and sent him death threats, it became less of a laughing matter.
For the most part, I didn't really care about the memes as much. The random death threats were a little disturbing, I'll be honest. And at a certain point, it got to the point where most of the people gave up. The whole angry mob thing kind of washed over, but there were still a couple stragglers that were just in the DMs or in the comments on my Instagram, or mainly Instagram, and just spamming. And it's like, damn, way to bring back a dead horse, a dead meme.
This led to a 3-year-long depressive episode. With his self-esteem crushed and his acting career ruined, things were looking dark. He felt the hate, while somewhat funny, was ultimately undeserved considering all he had done was be hired for the role and do what the writers and directors wanted.
Going back to the point of Not My Roderick, the hardest part about dealing with the hate was that I felt like I hadn't really done anything to deserve it. Yes, granted, the movie wasn't great, and maybe some people hated my performance, but I acted my little ass off in that movie, okay? And to have people saying that they wished I was dead just for doing my job and being in a movie was kind of crazy. And being a teenager at the time, and no one no one was really there to guide me through it or to like help me, really. I just had to like suck it up and deal with it. I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And, you know, it took me 3 years to finally let go and move on.
Once coming out of this depressive period, he ultimately determined acting just wasn't for him. He doesn't hold any anger for those participating in the memes, but the people going too far and incessantly spamming him after the fact obviously shouldn't have done so. Charlie now aims to pursue a career as a model and YouTuber.